Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Monday, November 25th, 5 o'clock Administration and Public Works Committee meeting. Can we take the roll?
Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
3, we have a quorum.
All right, and Councilmember Burns is in transit, so we'll see him in a few minutes. Thank you. We don't have anyone virtual for the meeting. Perfect. Yeah, okay, perfect. Can I get a motion for M1?
Madam Chair, I move item M1, which is approval of the minutes from A&PW Committee from November 11th, 2024.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly acknowledged. Are there any questions, concerns, changes to the minutes?
Nope.
No. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. This passes. Public comment. We have no one signed up online or in the foyer for public comment, so we'll move on. So I have items A6, A10, A16, A14, A17, and A19. Is there anything else we'd like to remove from the agenda at this time?
Nope. So, Madam Chair, I will move the consent agenda minus items A6, 10, 14, 16, 17, and 19.
Councilmember Kelly, you second?
I second, I'm sorry, yes.
That's okay. It has been moved and properly seconded to accept the consent agenda minus items A6, A10, A14, A16, A17, and A19. Can, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No. So the consent moves forward. First up is A6.
Madam Chair, I'll move item A6, approval of a 3-year contract for chiller maintenance at the Robert Crown Community Center.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I had one question.
Okay.
Just for the funding source, let's see, so this is a total of 27,000. Isn't there a specific earmarked Robert Crown Maintenance Fund?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Sean Cholak. Sean, I don't know if you can hear us. I know you had to take this call from home. There was a question. And please add Councilmember Burns to the roll.
We need to,
Unmute him.
oh, never mind, he's here in person, so good.
Who? Oh, yeah, Councilmember Burns, yeah. Sean,
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification. I understand that we have a Robert Crown Maintenance Fund. I'm just wondering why this isn't coming out of that fund. Or unless it is, and it's just a subset of this one.
Sean, can you hear us? Can you give us a thumbs up? Maybe, oh, there you go.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, council members. I'm sorry. I just started hearing some of this just now. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Just the funding source, wanted to know if you could explain why this amount is, it looks like it's not coming from the Robert Crown Maintenance Fund, but just from another building maintenance service account as opposed to the fund that's earmarked for maintenance just for Robert Crown.
Right. So you're talking about item A6, the
Yes.
chiller maintenance.
Yeah.
Fund, chiller maintenance. Yeah. So my understanding is that this was not covered as part of that Crown Maintenance Fund, but I can discuss it with Parks and Rec afterwards and confirm if it's something that can be paid from there. We typically, a lot of the large HVAC equipment gets paid out from the facilities fund, so that was what we put down for this. But I can confirm with them if it's something that we can.
Okay, yeah, it seems like it should come from that fund. given the expenses associated with that and that center. But, so that would be great if you could look into that. I mean, I don't want to block this or stop it but it seems if we could, I don't know if that could later be, if that's something administratively that can be done, taken from the Robert Crown Maintenance Fund. If we approve this if we approve this tonight.
Yeah, I can talk with finance and find out if it's something we can just have transferred over from fund to fund. So I'll confirm with Parks and Rec and with finance.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So for clarity, you're okay with this? You're not holding?
Yeah, I understand that they will see if this can be taken from what is designated for the Robert Crown Maintenance Fund. And if it can be, then those funds will be transferred back to what is listed here. I mean, if it ends up getting paid directly from the general fund building maintenance services account, that those funds, my understanding is that we wouldn't have to bring this back, that those funds will be transferred.
Okay. Well, we
I
can
guess I
ask
need-
that somebody gets back to us when that happens or what happens with the account.
Okay, great.
somebody
I think,
taking
is my
note?
understanding correct, Sean? I missed Manager Cholik.
Yes, I can find out and I can let everybody know via email once we have that confirmed.
Great. Thank you so much. Either way, just please let us know. All right?
Yes,
All right. Thank you so much for joining.
no problem. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I know, I feel like this comes up a lot, and my understanding was that we almost barely had enough just to maintain the turf field, because I think the turf field has to be maintained in a certain amount of time. So I don't know if anybody can speak to that, but I feel like every time a new maintenance request comes up with Robert Crown, we have the same discussion. So I don't know if we can.
That's my recollection as
Yeah.
well. We do have the separate Crown Maintenance Fund, which is, I recall, is being held for the eventual big-ticket replacement of the turf field.
So I don't remember that in the definition. Sorry, pardon me.
Sean, if you could just find out, or someone from from Parks and Rec is here to answer that or get back to us. All right? That was before
Yes,
my
I will. I
Yeah,
will
that
talk
was
with
before
you.
my time, so I don't have a recollection at all. All right, thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
There's any more discussion? Councilmember Newsma? That was that, okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Thank you. We will now move to A10.
Madam Chair, I move item A10, approval of a letter of agreement to supply road salt and salt brine to Northwestern University.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councilmember Kelly.
I just had one question, thought I'd take the opportunity, given the topic of this question. I promised a couple of residents I would ask, given that we're just upon winter and snow, to get some assurances that I know last winter there were some concerns about, snow plowing not happening on a couple of snowy days. And I think just last week, have we figured out our, what we need to do to ensure that we're ready? Thank you.
So hold on, Director Kano. I'll address that. We had a discussion, actually, the day it snowed. I was on the phone with Director Kano. It was like, are we prepared? And he's like, we've been moving since 6 that morning. We know that's huge, but we also know that Mother Nature determines, and we were told it was 1 inch of snow, and it ended up being 1 inch a day. So that has been a directive as the chair of this, that we stay in front of that because we know that's huge. And I'll turn over to you, Director Kano.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Harris. Good evening, Chair Harris, members of the committee. I'm Edgar Kano, Public Works Agency Director. Councilmember Kelly, really appreciate those comments. We are excited, believe it or not, for this upcoming snow season. We've prepared throughout the year, making sure we're stockpiled with all our de-icers. Our equipment has been checked out thanks to fleet. We actually did revisit our routes, making sure that we're being as efficient as we possibly can, and we're just we are ready to tackle this snow as it comes, but we are prepared. We do ask the public to give us a little bit of time before they start putting in the request. A lot of times we do get 311 requests at the beginning, just saying, hey, please don't forget my street, or I live on a residential block, but it hasn't been plowed yet and it's been snowing for an hour. Just want to remind everyone, we do our primary main streets first, just to make sure we get traffic flowing, make sure people have access to, hospitals and schools. But we will eventually get to every single block. And we have hardworking staff there that just waiting to show what they can do. So we're ready.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, A10 passes. Next is A14.
Madam Chair, I'll move item A14, which is approval of a 6-month contract extension with Dynegy Energy Services for municipal electricity supply.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Questions, Councilmember Nusma?
Yeah, I'll ask Kara Pratt to tell us exactly the price that we would be approving tonight, because the memo was prepared last week, and the price is only valid for one day. You got a quote earlier today. What are we looking at?
Good evening, members of the Administration and Public Works Committee. My name is Kara Pratt, Sustainability and Resilience Manager. You have in your inbox our most updated pricing through our renewal of the contract with Dynegy. This is standard best practice, how we handle this type of electricity agreement, because the electricity market changes from hour to hour. We do have a tentative price that we include in the packet, and then actionable prices the day of. So as was mentioned in the new contract attachment that was sent, our price actually has been reduced based on the tentative pricing from 6.2 cents per kilowatt hour to 6.1 cents per kilowatt hour.
And how long is that good to? Will we, if we decide tonight, it's still good tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of 6.1 cent?
Procedurally, we all know what we're voting on here. The price is, the contract, the revised contract is emailed by Kara earlier today.
Yep.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. All right, thank you. We will move to A16.
Madam Chair, I'll move item A16, acceptance of a $985,000 U.S. Department of Transportation Innovative Finance and Assessment Concession Grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Are there questions? Councilmember Nusma.
I think staff would like to fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, good evening, Chair and committee members. We just have a quick presentation just to update you on the timeline and what got us to this point. So going back to July of 2023, the council approved the city to participate in what we call PAW, putting assets to work. April 29th, City Council approved the plan. On May 10th of this year, staff submitted our grant application. And then back in September, we were actually awarded the $985,000 grant that is coming before you tonight. So today, we are seeking your acceptance of the grant funds. And on January 13th, we will bring back approval of a contract with a consultant to help us administer the program. And so we're targeting early February to start the program. And if we'll go to the next slide, you all have seen this, but this just kind of is the summary of what we're looking at as we begin our PAW process. So there's been a lot of internal conversations about connecting the dots between various needs in the community and our assets and where we go from here. But that will all get discussed in detail as we move forward after tonight's funding award and getting our consultant in place. So Paul's here as well. We can answer any questions you have, but just wanted to give you the highlight of what got us to this point and where we're at now.
I do
All right,
question.
thank you, Councilmember Nusma.
Yeah. So the packet specifically mentions only the 3 buildings, the Civic Center, Police and Fire Headquarters, and Noise. But we've got all these parking lots and the lakefront amenity too. Yeah. This grant that we're talking about tonight, is that specific grant limited to those buildings?
I believe so.
And the other,
Yeah,
what we we'll talk about parking lots. We'll still talk about parking lots using some other money.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Paul Zemazak, Economic Development Manager. We think the grant will use all of the funds for those 3 buildings. We think that is what it's going to take. But it could also be used for any other asset that's within a half mile of a transit station. We thought we had our best chance of getting this grant if we focused on the properties that we already had underway in terms of a planning process and a lot of community engagement on already. And just to reinforce, this is not about decisions haven't been made. We're not talking about redeveloping anything at this point. This is really about looking at how we can really extract more revenue from these properties. But we could start talking a little bit about parking lots as well, but the real main focus for the grant is the 3 main properties.
Got it. And I think you made a very important point. We haven't made any final decisions on either of the 3 of these buildings.
That is very correct.
And so this process will give us some more very actionable, relevant, firm information that will allow us to have a more informed discussion when we do eventually decide what we're going to do with these buildings.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. No work will start on this grant until February 2nd. We will not get reimbursed from the government if we even started the work. And hopefully by then, there will have been several conversations about some of these assets that will incorporate into that putting assets to work process.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Kelly.
So we've received grants in the past that have ended up costing us a lot of money. So I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit insecure about this particular one. I don't really quite understand the full impacts of this. And it does feel to me like we're moving in a direction without, even with this, by sinking that sort of money into it, a commitment prior to sufficient community dialogue. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I'll yield to Paul on this one too, but I believe part of the process will be including robust community dialogue, correct, Paul?
Thank you. I'm not quite sure what the concern is. If you could explain a little more, because we can't, first of all, we can't start the work till February 2nd.
And what work you mean?
It would be
we've spent
Sure.
a lot of money on consultants to look at the civic center. We spent a lot of money.
Sure.
On a
So-
lot of looking at our public assets.
Just to be clear, there is no expenditure. There's no match requirement on this grant. So we're accepting the grant agreement. Yes, we have to expend time and perhaps some cost associated with it on the front end with planning. But we can't do anything unless there's nothing to do yet. We have to plan it and figure it out with the community.
We have so much to do right now with community discussions around the civic center, everything else. This just, I'm not comfortable with it. I think right now we're in the middle of another process, and to fold this in and I also don't know if it's going to lead to far more expense for the city after taking this. I can't, it's really difficult at this point without further, like I say, I feel like even on this to spend, it's just $1 million, we're going to bring this group in. I don't think it's just that simple.
Fair enough.
And I think there's ramifications that we aren't fully discussing by moving forward on this.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Burns.
I guess I want to clean that up. I still want to clean that up a bit because I don't, my understanding is that we were going to be holding community engagement meetings around the Civic Center. I feel like those were planned several months ago, and then I got an email saying, hey, we're holding off because we're going to plan them at some point in the next few months. It was something like that because we were going to do joint meetings initially, and I think staff needed more time before they started on that. So maybe we can just definitively say when we're going to start the community engagement process around for Civic Center.
Yes, my name is
That's even better news. Yeah.
my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the city engineer. So the city has hosted 4 listening sessions that finished up last week around the Civic Center relocation possibilities. And we're really focused on discussing what types of amenities or how we access service through our city hall. We have also done a targeted survey of registered voters, and we have done an open survey for anybody who's interested to jump in and think. That is closing tonight, I believe, or early tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess my understanding is that I don't see why putting assets to work wouldn't complement those meetings. I had an opportunity to, I can't remember his name offhand, but Ben McAdams, we had him on for a Fifth Ward meeting, and at one point he even said that there are strategies within this concept where a city may want to hold on to public property, right, including the Civic Center. And so, again, understanding what traditionally have been your concerns, Councilmember Kelly, I only see this as something that could complement that process and certainly wouldn't disrupt it in any way or circumvent it. But thank you, Laura. That was it on that.
If ultimately the public engagement and the council happens and the council decides that they wish to renovate the existing Civic Center, our study would show that we really only need about 60% of the space. And so we would want to, following a renovation, so we would want to still participate in this, both to understand options for the remainder use of the space, but also as we renovate, what are we trying to incorporate in that could be revenue generation for the building?
Thank you. And then because this process focuses primarily on 3 sites, does everything else happen simultaneously, or are we going to focus on the 3 sites first and then focus on everything else? Just want to understand how we're going to stage all that.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Councilmember Burns. So this is specific to the grant that we're getting. So the $985,000 would focus on these 3 sites, and then we're deploying the program as a full program. So I don't know that we have a time estimate for when we'll start discussing the other projects, but we'll start developing that as we move forward in the process.
And do we have funding for it, or do we need to have that conversation soon?
I don't believe there's,
Do we need funding?
Hopefully this will generate some revenue, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we might as well
Come
the three
back
of
and
us
give me a
might as-
headache.
do a group hug and just stay, or get wireless mics.
There we go.
Yeah, I think we have a good team effort here, as you can tell. So we don't know quite yet how this is all going to roll out, right? There might be a scenario where our consultant is deployed for a developer fee, or where there's no fee on we're not paying anything until a property is brought to the marketplace and has whatever characteristics that we're demanding of the marketplace, and then they would sell or ground lease or whatever the process is going to be, and then we would pay out on the back end. But we have to be careful with how we're funding these first 3 up front, and then we'll go from there. Those first 3 are going to take a lot of effort. Probably, I'm going to estimate probably the entire first year of this potential 3-year grant.
And the reports that you give us, are you going here for the PAW reports, or are you going to committee, or where can we expect those?
I think it always has to come to APW.
Okay, cool. Then I hold my comments. The main thing is, if we're not going to be able to do, because I'm also excited about the vacant lots and some of the other things, opportunities around the city. And so if we're going to have to hold off on that for the next 5-6 years because we're focusing on these, I just want to know that on the front end.
No,
so
that's not
react
going
to that.
I want to be very clear about that. That's not going to be the case. We have to capitalize on the interest that the development community has in Evanston. People want to invest here. And we also have, this council has asked us time and time again to deliver on affordable housing. And we think that this is the best way to do that. And we've got to get to work.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. And, perhaps it would be good, again, I just feel like not enough is fleshed out and how it's going to interface with what we're already working on. Even the transparency, it says governance and governmental roles within PAW will be clearly shall be clearly outlined. I just think we need more clarification with the community before moving on this. And I also think more discussion about which properties the community really feels we should be focusing on. So I'm not comfortable with this at this point. I feel like we're layering on additional confusion onto projects that we're working on right now. So, but
I'm hopeful. We're hopeful that over the next few weeks, culminating on January 13th, when we bring forward a contract with Mr. McAdams and his team, that we'll be able to flesh that out and you'll have more comfort with it. But nothing happens until that contract is approved, and nothing happens before February 2nd. But we want the formal acceptance of the grant so we can initiate the contract with the U.S. government. If at the end of the day, let's say the city council does not agree with our contract on January 13th, then this is over and we don't do it. I mean, we'll do it as staff. It's just, it would take forever to get it done.
Right.
Frankly.
Thank you. I think no matter what, staff will be rolling up their sleeves, and there will be a lot of hours and taxpayer dollars, that will be expended in terms of following through with this contract. So things will happen. I mean, I'm not saying maybe, in the end I'll support it when you come back. So, but at this point, I'm not comfortable with it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Well, let's do roll call because I think I hear something different.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
All right. So that passes 3-1. Moving on to A17.
Madam Chair, I'll move item A17, which is Resolution 82R24, authorizing the city manager to sign a notification of grant award to fund and operate a congregate senior meal program at the Levy Senior Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Are there questions or conversation? No? Okay. So then that means I put it off. I just want to say I keep talking about this, and I'm hoping that at some point Meals on Wheels, and I know they've had some concerns and issues, that we'll find a local vendor that gets us this and we pour back into the community. There's nothing wrong with the circle effect of getting in the community and serving. Seeing no other questions or discussion, all those in favor? Aye. A17 passes unanimously. And last but not least, A19.
Madam Chair, I'll move item A19, which is Resolution 84R24, authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with Cook County regarding the Connecting Cook County program.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm excited about this program, which will help us expand our divvy network and add some additional bike stations as well as some scooters. I want to ask staff about funding sources for this, and this grant comes with a matching fund requirement, and as explained in our memo, we'd be looking at bond revenue to fund our portion of this project. I'm not super comfortable using bond revenue to pay for assets such as scooters that only have a lifespan of 3 or 4 years, if that. So I'm wondering if there is an alternative revenue source we could use.
Do we have staff available to answer that? Okay. Who? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Steve Ruger, Deputy City Manager. So members of the committee, I think the alternative would be to just take it out of our fund balance if we didn't want to use bond proceeds for it.
Okay. I'm okay using bond proceeds to fund improvements for the divvy stations, assuming they last a good number of years. 20 years is how long we'd be paying for them.
Yeah.
But the disposable assets like the scooters is not an appropriate use of bond revenue.
Yeah, and perhaps Ms. Fiorito knows too, but we're assuming, and I think it's part of the contract, that Divvy will be required to maintain all the infrastructure. So if a scooter goes out, I believe they would replace all of that stuff as well.
So I'd like this to move forward. Could we just provide a recommendation to staff or provide the direct staff to use to not use bond revenue for unless it's for the stations themselves? So that we're getting a indication in the affirmative from the city manager and the deputy city manager. So with that, I'm prepared to vote in favor.
Okay, there's more questions. Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I guess I'm still trying to make sure I know the general need to, expand our bike infrastructure, but I'm just curious what the current utilization is of our divvy bikes, and are there, is the plan to put these in areas that where we've identified gaps or service area gaps? It's all anecdotal, but I drive around, bike around, walk around a lot, and I just, it seems like there's always bikes available. So I just want to make sure that I want to better understand the need. And partly because, and I'm going to go through a much longer exercise during council of really kind of looking at a couple CIP, GO bond CIP items. And this was one of them. I would agree. Not only do I not think we need to be bonding out for this, I think we can use excess general reserves in the general reserve fund, but also I just want to make sure I understand the need. So if somebody can speak to that now, I'm happy to move this on to council as well to discuss it there.
Thank you, members of the APW committee. My name is Sarah Fiorito, Transportation and Mobility Coordinator for the city. So on Councilmember Burns' question, so the idea with, thank you, Kara. So the idea with the expanding the system would be to do exactly that. Right now, Evanston has a great foundation of a network. We've got 14 docking stations, but for, a city of our size with 8 square miles, we do have very large areas where folks have much less access to the network, which also thereby makes the network a little less useful overall, right? The more dense we have the stations, the more overall useful it is. On the point about, bikes being docked and stuff like that, broadly, we do want, there's that balance, right? Because if things are being used at all times and they're always being ridden and, people are standing at the dock waiting for them to get back and then taking them immediately and they're never even getting to a dock, we don't really want that. But then we also don't want them to never be leaving the dock. So I think finding that, having enough vehicles and also enough stations to make the network useful, it's finding that balance between, having them utilize enough that they're active while also having them, be placed around Evanston in a way that's useful for the community. I'll leave it there and let you guys ask clarifying questions.
No, that's helpful. Yeah, I think I'm definitely understand the need if there are certain gaps where these bikes just aren't available. And I don't know if you could quickly speak to that. What side of town are we seeing gaps?
So I don't have a map with me right now, but basically if you look at Evanston's current divvy stations, and this is something that you can pull up on Google Maps, like this is something that you can that is publicly available just as for folks who are tuning in or want to check it out. But essentially the largest kind of density of our stations right now in Evanston are very mostly placed in the eastern part of the city. That's where a lot of economic activity is happening. That's where Northwestern is. There's reason, that's where some of our Purple Line stations and Metro stations are. So it makes sense. That's a great starting area, but ultimately we want to start. Part of what we would be doing with Divvy as part of the next step of this is working with, their transportation planners, looking at our data of where dockless dockless bikes are currently being parked away from docking stations. We'd be looking at areas that have the biggest geographic gaps. We'd be looking at, equity data, just all the different things. And then basically, doing, our 5 additional stations based on a plethora of things, including, putting stations where they are less represented right now geographically.
Okay. And I think I saw in the response to Councilmember Newsom's questions through email that we'll own the infrastructure, the stations themselves. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And so what does that mean? We won't always have to use Divvy at some point, or I just understand how that works.
Yeah.
Because they're Divvy stations, right?
So they are Divvy stations. And ultimately, I think city of Evanston, we would definitely be wise to for our bike share network be collaborating with our municipal partners, whether it's Chicago/CDOT, Chicago Department of Transportation, whether it's other municipalities who are also in the area, who are also taking a look at bringing bike share into their homes. So no matter what, I think to have a useful system, we always want to be in collaboration with our municipal partners. That being said, these, as far as operations wise, like for example, right now, Lyft operates the Divvy system. That's a contract that they have, with the Divvy system. So, as far as what the operation will look like long term, there's, a lot of possibilities of where that can go. But I think as a baseline from a transportation network perspective, we definitely, want to be collaborating with our partners.
Okay. And you said this is also for scooters, so will they be docked at the same stations or different stations?
Yes. So part of, as some folks know, in Chicago right now, they've had scooters for the last, I believe, 2 years in operation in their Divvy system. So part of bringing in new stations will be getting our old stations up to par with the new ones, which can accommodate scooters, and also bringing that option into Evanston. And also, a lot of the education and outreach that we want to be doing as far as really enabling our community to be riding safely and doing all these things in a way that everyone feels good about. So yes, the stations will be able to, the same dock would be able to take a scooter or a bike.
Okay. And then last question, this is a side note. In Chicago, there seems to be from time to time issues with people parking scooters in the middle of the sidewalk. I got a Facebook friend that I follow that's always, he's upset about it, and he's on a mission right now.
Yes.
To try to end that. So is that, you're not
Yes.
supposed to park on the sidewalk, I would imagine, you're supposed to park somewhere else. I don't know if it's
Correct.
the parkway or at a station perhaps, but I just wanted to get some clarity on that.
Yes. Very excellent question. Yes, there's a lot to say about that. So long story short, you do need to park dockless Divvy vehicles, either in docking stations, in the formal docking stations, or if they're electric vehicles, whether they're scooters or e-bikes, you do need to park those the same way you would park any private bike to a locking, something that you can lock to. Okay. So anytime where somebody is leaving it in the middle of something, that is not allowed. That is not allowed. That's not, according to official parking policy. And there's a lot of different directions that we have been talking to Divvy about, and also CDOT, who runs Chicago system, or owns Chicago system, about ways that we can, encourage better parking behavior, and also just kind of make it not feasible to even do that in the first place. There's things that we can do with geofencing, where literally you just can't end your trip places, or a lot of things that other municipalities have done, where they have additional kind of designated parking areas. Like some municipalities have gotten really creative with it and really cut down on those practices. So we've got some good options.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I think it's great to expand the Divvy system. I know the bike plan is not yet ironed out, and I know I've heard a lot of concern from some of the business community. So is this, if we vote to expand it, it's not yet determined how we'll expand it and where that can be?
Yes. So
Okay.
as far as the locations of the new docking stations, that is TBD. That's going to be based on a variety of things, including community feedback, ridership data, as far as like where people are moving, geographic spacing, and stuff like that.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you. Picking up on what Councilmember Burns said about safety, we're already seeing some electric scooters on the streets, and whether they're Divvy or whether they're privately owned scooters, I don't think we have enough rules of the road in place that allow for proper education or enforcement of safe use of those alternative transportation methods. So is this something that we should be looking at fairly soon?
Yes. So yes, we're looking at it already. So yes, to kind of succinctly respond to that, first and foremost, we are going to be updating City of Evanston ordinances. We're going to be bringing that to you all at council coming up sometime in the next for sure in the next year, probably in the coming months, to kind of formalize, the presence of these small electric vehicles on our roads, because right now it's kind of in a kind of gray area in city ordinance. As far as safety, that is something formally at the state of Illinois level. These vehicles do have the same rights and responsibilities of larger vehicles, and also, there's some other stipulations about that. But on the education side, and as far as us really bringing our community members into the fold of really using all these things in a safe and fruitful way for everyone involved on the roads, that is something that we are going to be focusing on, just from an education perspective, not only around this program specifically, Divvy, but in making sure that, folks know how to operate these vehicles safely and stuff like that, some engagement that we're going to be doing. But broadly, we are going to be making education around, bike use, scooter use, etc., something that is more broadly available in the community, and just start to kind of make that more about the culture of how we get around in Evanston, and kind of giving people that info.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilmember Reed, and that'll be our final question.
Okay, yeah, that one. Thank you for this. I'm really excited about this. I support.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry, we have to add you to the roll.
Yes,
So
okay.
Go ahead.
I am excited about this. I support us moving forward with this. I do want to add one thing to what you said around safety concerns. This council did pass an ordinance a few years ago that does make it illegal for folks to operate these kind of vehicles under the influence. And so I don't know how many municipalities have a law like that on the books. I think we're probably one of the few for these kinds of vehicles. And so I just want to remind us of that. I'm happy to see us potentially expanding the Divvy system. And I believe this is including the new scooters as well. I really want to see us expand beyond Divvy. I think Divvy has, Chicago has a competitive market with these scooters and these alternative modes of transportation. I think Evanston needs to have that competitive market as well. And I think some of the other providers have more affordable plans and rates than Divvy does. And so I'd hope to see us move in that direction as well to create more competition and affordability. Thank you.
Do you have any comment to that or no? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I think we'll take direction from council on that. I think, we have some stipulations in our arrangement with Divvy regarding that, but I think there's more to talk about with that. So look forward to direction from you all.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Seeing no other questions, or just not allowing them. All those in favor of A19?
Aye.
No opposition. A19 passes. That concludes our meeting. Seeing no other business before us, we will begin the meeting at 5:50. Our city council meeting at 5:50.